fantastic talks. Thank you. 2 fantastic talks preceding this rather let me off the hook. So I'm not quite sure what I've got in store for you. At some point, I thought, well, it would be really nice to do some images alongside. So I have concocted a PowerPoint with some images, which sometimes they do have something to do with what I'm talking about, and sometimes they're just a bit arbitrary. And I have to warn you, there are also a couple of quite bad jokes that I like, but you might not. And there could also be a cat. There could be a cat. It's here and it's wet, but it might kind of impose itself upon the proceedings shortly. So I apologize for all these things in advance, folks. Now I'm going to just see if I can screen share what happens if I do this. This wasn't what I was expecting. Oh, so now can you see that? It says on my screen, it says Brahma Viharas or the Divine Abodes. So far, so good. What I'm hoping is that when I want to exit, I can just do that. But I can't quite, can I? Oh, stop share. There we go. I might have it now. So hopefully this is going to work. Right, so we're approaching takeoff. This week, we're going to take a look at Mudita. It's often referred to as sympathetic joy, but I think I prefer appreciative joy, which to me sounds more spontaneous and wholehearted somehow. And I pronounce it as Mudita, but doing some research for this talk, I discovered that some people call it Mudita. And this sounds like something entirely different to me. Not downbeat Mudita, which falls away at the end of the word, but Mudita, much more alive. Sounds like a character from West Side Story or Encanto. So this is where I'm hoping to do some screen sharing. And I have to do the whole thing again. So this is an image of the layering of the Brahma Viharas. You have metta as the basis, and then these different shimmering schemes of qualities that build up from metta. And here's my Mudita. I could envisage her as a dancer like this. So she sounds like a character from West Side Story or Encanto, doesn't she? Sounds calypso, tango, bejeweled and explosive, an expression of colour and vividness. I can hear castanets and bangles. Mudita is full of life and freedom. So maybe she's a Dakini, one of those mysterious beings we heard about in a recent talk, flying through the sky. Mudita is so charismatic, we want to dance after her. Recent times in the UK feel challenging, financially, politically, environmentally, emotionally. Perhaps we grit our teeth and sigh, or our anxiety impels us to nag and criticize our nearest and dearest. We feel the need to be on top of things, in control, making good decisions and so on. Our effort and wits are required to get us through. When this is our focus, our access to Mudita is shoved to the end of the queue. but can you see her still waving and beckoning from the edge? Right now, our inner personal mythology is more about survival than joy, perhaps, or more about getting by. Maybe we have lots of concerns about paying the bills, or worries for our children's futures. But the joy we need in our lives is still close in the myriad iridescences of the everyday. All we have to do is notice them, share them, talk about them and value them, and realize these aren't just the trivial flotsam and jetsam around the edges of despair. They are the essential nature of our lives. I can hear Mudita laughing. I'm not sure how many references there are to the Buddha cracking a joke, but I'm sure he did, maybe quite dry ones. However, if you've ever done the Vajrasattva mantra, let me do this again. Here he is. He is a bodhisattva of incandescent purity. And oops. And you'll notice, if you've ever done his mantra, you'll notice that there's an important line in it that goes ha 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 ho. So laughter is transcendental. We can chalk that in. I watched the comedy series Ted Lasso last week. It's almost shocking to meet a fictional character in a modern narrative who meets obstacles with joy and humour. Not our typical dramas where everyone reacts to everyone else by storming out or shouting, slamming doors. Every time Ted meets rudeness or contempt, he responds with polite good humour and understanding. It's quite a joy to watch that. But I digress, back to the Brahma Viharas. The Brahma Viharas, or divine abodes, came from the time of the Buddha. Brahma was the god of the Hindu tradition before Buddhism, and his godly abodes are the equivalent of our monarch's seasonal palaces, Balmoral, Sandringham, Windsor, and Buckingham. So here they are. Can you see them? Oops. I'm not quite sure what's happening with my screen. Never mind. But the Brahma Viharas are more central, more immediate, and more meaningful than real estate. While Brahma was an ancient pre-Buddhist Hindu god, Brahma was also an ancient term for ultimate reality. And in the way that Buddhism incorporates from every culture, the practice of the sublime abodes was also taught by the Buddha. I've called this talk a cavern of treasures because this is the name of a secret hidden text discovered in Tibet in the 11th century, and which included the teaching of the Brahma Viharas. So it's very ancient teachings. We don't go straight to mudita. It comes from metta first. Mudita wells up when it comes in contact with another person's happiness. Sangharakshita said, it's the state of being happy in the happiness of others, rejoicing in their merits and positive qualities. We see happiness and delight arises. It's very simple, really. So these abodes are spiritual places where we can live, far more important than our country, street, home, or context. They're where we are situated in reality, or where we could be situated in reality. So take a moment to consider, where do you live? I mean, in your experience, in your heart, mind, soul. Hopefully somewhere at least calm and purposeful. But often we live marred in anxiety, confusion, and weariness. How must it be to live in a divine abode where we flow in responsiveness to other people and life's challenges with friendliness, compassion, appreciation, and equanimity. Does that sound okay? The Brahma Viharas are what happens when metta meets the world. They're not an ascension of increasingly spiritual states. They describe a fluid and responsive heart, meeting different conditions both internally and externally. All the Brahma Viharas correspond with the moment of the solar and lunar cycle, and Mudita is compared to sunrise. I hope you're seeing that. Beautiful sunrise. So imagine the upswelling, the relaxing expansion, the sense of upward movement that dawn expresses. It's both relaxing and energizing. There's a spontaneous joy with this time of day, how things should be, perfection, scintillating potential. The extraordinariness of life is distilled here, and even thoughts and mental pictures of sunrise can bring us this feeling of rightness and delight. Vimalachita touched on the traditional enemies of each of the Brahma Viharas. These are mental and emotional states which obscure them and part us from our richest resources. So to recap a little, each of the four comes with corresponding near and far enemies, and these are both interesting and useful. We can see where we dramatically oppose the quality and where we may more subtly trick ourselves into thinking we're there when we're not. We can explore these to diffuse them and look at what can help to unhook their sticky tentacles. So let me see if I can share. There's the sunrise. Here we are. It's a little chart. So you can see in this, got down the left-hand side, metta, karuna's compassion, we'll come to that another week, mudita and upekkha. And the near enemies, selfish affection, pity, exuberance, indifference, painful ill will, cruelty, resentment, craving and clinging. So we're concerned here with mudita. It's described here as joy with others, the near enemy being exuberance and the far enemy being resentment. And if you fancy doing your own little chart, you could be building this up as the weeks go by and filling in different things like the sunrise that goes with mudita, and find out the other lunar solar times that go with the other ones. I like it when these lists are nice and short, and the Brahma Viharas are delightful and practical as well as being only 4 of them. So to the far and near enemies of mudita, envy is the traditional far enemy of mudita. Instead of the delight in others' experience, we feel diminished, impoverished, and sour. We envy what they have. So this made me think of the Wicked Queen from Snow White. She's a good encapsulation, isn't she, of envy. She's bitterly jealous of her stepdaughter's youth and beauty. They say comparison is the thief of joy, and the Wicked Queen is a fiendish representation of this. Maybe we need to become more familiar with delighting in our own qualities and attributes as a means to appreciating fully the benefits that others enjoy too. It's helpful to recall the advantages we enjoy as a basis to expand from. including our own sense of progress here, the positive steps we take to practice, to meditate, to meet with Sangha. And wherever we are, we can notice pleasure, warm or cool, bird song or busyness, sunshine or rain. We can usually find an element that's pleasing in our experience. Envy can feel a bit distant or a bit melodramatic. And I mistyped this as melodramatic. That's one of my little jokes, sorry. But envy can be more like resentment, not quite as simple as someone's got something I want. It's more as if they have something they don't deserve. I might not even want it, but I perceive the comfort, pleasure, power, or influence of some people as something that I feel they don't deserve. I notice this particularly in my outrage with politicians. What's the antidote to resentment? Maybe considering that the objects of our resentment and grudges are also human and just like us. So just like us, they're capable of being kind, and they're capable of receiving kindness, and they experience the effects of kindness too. What's it like when we experience kindness, when we need it most? It's a balm, isn't it? Even when it doesn't really fix things, kindness helps. And even politicians know this. So the near enemy of mudita is exuberance. So, hooray, here he is. He's our exuberant Tigger. Do you recall Mudita? You can see how she might become intoxicated and lose touch with the essential nature of mudita, which is being selflessly and generously uplifted by the joy of others. Tigger is a good example of this somewhat turbulent energy, and I did look him up to see where that might lead me, and sadly I got this. I did hesitate about sharing this one, but here we go, in for a penny. Lovely Tiggerish character. But in fact, Boris is clearly a presentation of intoxicated exuberance. A good way to tame the less positive aspect of exuberance is to bring gratitude to mind. Over-exuberance is essentially self-centered, and when we consider where we feel gratitude to, it tempers the feverish or frenzied over-enthusiasm by including a warm appreciation of others, and hence a less self-referential outlook. We just need to reflect a little on the extraordinariness of life, of being alive at all, to experience gratitude. Not carried away with potency and energy, gratitude can purify and season exuberance, making it other regarding, balancing our vitality with awareness and goodwill towards others. Vimalachita mentioned name dropping as an expression of the near enemy of mudita. Lovely, I thought. Great opportunity for me to do a bit of my very favorite name dropping. But I thought I can't do that really. It's not the place for that, is it really? Just to. So I restrained myself. We can all think of moments where we claim the upper hand or the pre-knowledge of something someone else brings. Oh, I was just saying that. I was just thinking about that. We want to claim ownership and relate, insert ourselves into the event or experience when we could simply appreciate or celebrate in others. I'll mention another couple of barriers we might have to encountering mudita. When we start to practice, we do discover these knotty, insistent, old, die-hard misconceptions and attitudes embedded deep in our beliefs about ourselves and the world. They're like gnarly old fossils in our systems, soaking up energy, and yet hard to identify and bring to the light of day. There's a fossil for you, just in case you needed one. So here's one of these fossils: discounting and discrediting. So I know I don't want to be blind to suffering or glib. I don't even want to shortchange myself of the scope of all experience, which includes suffering and pain. I don't want to deny these aspects. So sometimes I can lack trust in the opposite experiences, the joy in other people, their kindness, intelligence, and that numinous beauty in life that's always accessible. Suffering calls for our attention, and it's important that we attend to suffering to continue to stay alive individually and as a species. We're hot-wired to respond to suffering quickly, whereas there's less evolutionary need for joy, perhaps. But mudita balances compassion. I think there's a tension here for many of us. It's often culturally easier, more comfortable to overlook or devalue beauty, joy. Compassion is less culturally foreign to us somehow. Perhaps in the Northern Hemisphere, our roots and Christian conditioning allow suffering a sort of spiritual charisma. And hence, in my imagining at least, the tropical and sunny joy of Mudita has a summery pagan feel to it. And briefly, a couple of other barriers or fossils we might encounter. Because of negative bias, we can think of suffering as real and happiness as unreal or fabricated. Then when we do experience happiness, we think it's an error and will go soon, leading us back to suffering. But we don't need to live in a world where suffering is real and happiness merely a freak blip, and it's inaccurate to focus more on the negative. Both are equally impermanent. The wheel of life shows pleasure and suffering alternating. It's illuminating that the sublime abodes are central to our practice, and indeed that metta is the foundation. Whatever we can do to develop kindness and joy are central aspects of our spiritual lives. And mudita is a fantastic quality to open us up and give us more spiritual perspective. Fear is another difficult fossil. Sometimes we unconsciously feel if I relax to enjoy things, something bad will follow as a consequence. I will pay for happiness and pleasure with some downfall or disaster. And the final fossil I'm going to mention is guilt. If others are suffering, it somehow helps if I suffer too, as if it's the least I can do. If there's suffering outside me, my best response to it is to suffer too. I mean, obviously, no one needs more suffering, but we do need resilience. We need delight in what's beyond ourselves. So when we do meet suffering, we're not overwhelmed. The Buddha, in his own life story, discovers that suffering doesn't lead to freedom. He recalls the relaxed, spontaneous joy of being beneath the rose apple tree in his youth, just sitting in the shade, watching the world unfold. This deeply pleasurable experience of spontaneous, relaxed concentration intuitively opened up his path towards enlightenment. And when he recalled this lovely afternoon in adulthood, he saw clearly that denying himself pleasure wasn't helpful, that it's craving and clinging to pleasure that caused suffering. not pleasure or delight themselves. Last week, Maitri Shuri said the intention towards metta is the thing. And it's the same here with joy. We always start where we are. And the first thing to do is just notice when we respond with appreciation to the details of the everyday and that others show us, often the humour. Families, neighbours, colleagues. Our contact with others may be superficial sometimes, but also the details are often amusing and touching, and we can find ourselves more alive and softened somehow. There are not always shining glories to exult in, but there's gentle, beautiful humanity that's enriching and real. And so we can shift towards responding to delight. We can include the spiritual practice of others as a source of delight for us too. Joy in the transforming Dharma we are practicing together. We can see it affecting wonderful changes in our friends, teachers, and others who are part of our Sangha. It's really heartening to know how these systems of practice enrich and heal the lives of others. And then this ripples out when we respond with mudita, ignited by their happiness. Mudita, essentially, it's very simple. It has this lovely cleanness to it. We delight and then we let go. Pleasure arises in someone else, then in us, and then it's gone. Imagine walking up a street of beautiful gardens. We take in the loveliness, the colours, shapes, scents. Maybe we notice and appreciate that other humans have nurtured the gardens. Then we're past the street. The experience is fleeting. It's there and it's gone. Maitri Shuri also mentioned how important volition is in developing metta. She explained how by rechanneling our neural pathways with our simple intention towards metta, we alter not only our minds, but our bodies as well. They say trauma held in the body transmits itself through the generations, through our DNA. But joy can also be held somatically. Joy can benefit ourselves and others, like food, air, and water. We can synthesize joy and expand it into our resilience to meet the world. A blessing for ourselves, our families, our friends, and Sangha. Mudita, taken to its fullest potential, is a boundless, infinite state that's illimitable. It's said to make the mind immeasurable, like the mind of the loving gods. So that's me at the end. I think I missed a slide or two, but perhaps you were spared. So next, I thought we'd give the Mudita Bhavana a go, since we've just explored it a little bit. And like metta, it's very like the Metta Bhavana. So we're developing, instead of friendliness, we're developing pleasure in other people's joy or well-being, or any positive experience that others are having. So we go through the same stages, the close friend, the neutral person, the difficult person, and then spreading it out. But we also include a different section. So there's 6 sections to the Mudita Bhavana. So after ourselves, where we've enjoyed thinking about our own pleasure, delight, and joy, we expand to what's known as the boon companion. And this could be anybody that we feel has directly benefited us, and it's just a really easy stretch to imagine them well and in a state of pleasure and joy. And it could be a teacher, someone who's literally helped us on the way, either in our spiritual lives or in any other aspect of our lives. Or it could be a spiritual friend, or it could be anybody that we just feel has helped us, supported us, and where we can easily take pleasure in their pleasure. And so that's the second stage, and then we move on just in the traditional fashion to the friend. And we've got a good half an hour or so to do this. So maybe we'll do like a 5-minute stage of each. That works, doesn't it? My maths is not very good. And I can't ring a bell because it makes a horrible noise. So I'll just announce when we move along. And I'm not going to say too much because my voice is going slightly. So if you can get yourselves comfortable, you have to shove a cat out the way here. Right, so if we just first settle into our bodies and into our position, get comfortable. Allowing the words to drift away. And maybe in this section where we're trying to bring mudita to ourselves, we can start by finding any pleasure or comfortableness in our bodies. Allow ourselves to enjoy whatever's immediately available to us to enjoy. Maybe it's just a general sense of relaxing, being with friends, being safe and warm at home in this rainy night. Maybe it's a warm feeling, a physically warm feeling somewhere in our bodies. We can let our faces soften. And just enjoy bathing in some pleasure and relaxation for a few minutes. Now recalling a boon companion. So someone where you experience an immediate uplift. It's easy to feel delight when you think of them. Someone who's helped and supported us. So a little equivalent perhaps to the sunrise. Someone where it's just very easy to flow into delight in their pleasure and well-being. It could even be someone not alive or that you don't know, but someone that you just feel significantly supported and helped you. And just enjoying those feelings of delight and gratitude that you feel towards them. Let that really ignite and expand. And now bringing to mind a friend, calling moments of their joy when they've been simply happy and delighted with something. And don't worry if there's other feelings that come in there too. We're complex people. Don't need to override, just let these things pass by and concentrate more on the pleasure that we feel in seeing the pleasure of our friend when they're well and happy. And now considering a neutral person, perhaps we can build on just the small human things that are going to bring pleasure and delight to anyone, all of us, and consider that this person also has that spark of joy and delight. That we can enjoy. We can appreciate their good fortune in whatever way it occurs for them. A neutral person is relaxed and having a laugh. You can just feel a welling up of pleasure and joy in seeing this. Now, bringing to mind someone we find difficult. And still bearing in mind that we can hold a range of experience. And if we can just shift the focus a little away from whatever the problems are with this person, and just take in their humanity that they share with us, and imagine them feeling relaxed and at ease and happy, and seeing if we can celebrate a little with them and enjoy their pleasure as a fellow being. So there's a current of metta running through this practice, and we're just lifting it a little bit, this aspect of appreciation and enjoyment of the person's pleasure, well-being. In the final stage, we can start by bringing all 5 people together: ourselves, the boon companion, our friend, the neutral person, and the difficult person. And seeing if we can feel appreciative joy equally for all those 5. Delighting in their pleasure and well-being. And then we can expand it to everyone here at our Sangha evening. Quite a wondrous thing to do, really, isn't it? For us all to be sitting here, trying to contact this feeling of joy in each other's pleasure and well-being. It's quite extraordinary.
Oh my god, that's the best.
And now expanding it outwards in whatever way we feel works for us, into our homes, into our streets, our localities. May everyone we encounter be feeling enjoyment and pleasure that we may delight in. All around the world, children are happy, their parents are pleased at their happiness, neighbours are kind to each other, people are generous and thoughtful. May all beings be happy and appreciate the joy of each other, expanding this out to all creatures, wherever they may be, knowing comfort and warmth and security. And then gently bringing our practice to an end. Coming back into our rooms, back into contact with our screens. Take your time.